to another edition of the I Prefer the 80s and 90s podcast where I, Richard Harris, talk about why I prefer the sports of yesterday over today. Having technical difficulties. It's part of my normal day. Every day I deal with is technical difficulties. But essentially today's topic is a topic that I've been talking about the last few times, where I have been ripping the media about this generation of sports in comparison to my generation of sports, which I say is more athlete driven as opposed to media driven. And I heard a couple things last night in the last day or so that really set me off. The first one was a little minor thing. When I heard Jim Courier, a player who I admired in the 1980s, who played tennis, was the number one player in the world. As you excuse the kids playing out by the pools, I can't get a time to blog, so I blog whenever I get silence. And so they're quiet for a few minutes, and then for some reason, kids feel they need to scream at pools. I don't understand that. I never screamed at a pool. I swam, I jumped around, I had fun. Did not play Marco Polo, so they shouldn't be screaming. But I digress. Jim Courier said something the other day, last night during a match, where the question was asked of him, why don't players today serve and volley? And Jim Courier's response was because players today return the ball too hard and much better than they did in his day, and therefore it's difficult to serve and volley. And I damn near fell out of my chair. Because if anyone knows anything about tennis, and I know he knows a lot about tennis, that is the most bogus BS explanation I've ever heard in my life. And the reason why I say that it is that the key to being a good serve and volleyer starts with, wait for it, the serve. You have to be able to place serves in positions that no matter what kind of return you can get the first volley and possibly end the point. John McEnroe, when he was a kid, used to do these drills, and I'm sure they still do today, where they put up hula hoops on the floor, or cones on the ground on the courts, and he had to either hit the ball in spots in the hula hoops or hit the cones, or hit in between the cones in order to place the ball so that when the person was trying to return it would have either difficulty returning it or couldn't return it. There's a player currently playing today by the name of Ben Shelton. Ben Shelton is a 22-year-old kid who is on his first year of the tour. Ben Shelton's father used to play on the tour. Ben Shelton should run to John McEnroe, should run to Martina Navratilova, or to Stefan Edberg, or to even Marin Cilic, and have somebody teach him how to serve and volley, which they are actually doing right now, because he's serving and volleying a lot more, and because of that, his matches are much more competitive. He has an 145-mile-an-hour serve. I don't care who you are. If you serve the ball 145 miles an hour and you can't serve and volley, especially as a lefty, then you aren't a professional tennis player. You are me. I can't serve at 145 miles an hour, but I should get it up there like on 120, 130 miles an hour. And I couldn't get my serving consistently, but a professional tennis player can. And if you're trying to tell me that you, as a 145-mile-an-hour server, 138-mile-an-hour server, 131, 140-mile-an-hour server, can't figure out how to place the ball properly so that your opponent can't get clean swings on you, then you're just a hack. Then you're just me, a hack. And to hear a professional tennis player who was once number one in the world give such a lame excuse. He said, and then the next serve that Shelton hit, Alcaraz returned, and it was a frame job, And Curry goes, see what I mean? They hit the ball so hard. They didn't hit the ball so hard. They did a frame job where the ball was wobbling back, and Shelton should have put it away. But he didn't. As I've said hundreds of times over the last couple of months, athletes today don't know how to play the games that they play. Whether it's a pitcher pitching and he's in a 1-2 count on a hitter and he throws him a pitch right down the middle and the guy hits a home run. You're not supposed to throw the ball down the middle. You're supposed to throw the ball out of the strike zone to entice him to hit the ball or to swing. Instead, pitchers today throw the ball where it can be hit, which makes no sense. In basketball, they get fast breaks, and instead of going to the basket to get the guarantee to, they run over and try to hit the three that they would only make 33% of the time. It's stupid. And to hear a professional tennis player say that the reason why players don't serve and volley today is because the return game is so much better is bunk. First of all, if they got their first serve in more, they would have so many easier points. That's why Andy Roddick couldn't win more than one major, because he couldn't get his first serve in more often. That's why John Isner can't win any matches, because John Isner doesn't get his first serve in, he's got nothing. That's the reason why people don't serve and volley, because they can't get their first serve in at a high enough percentage, and therefore they can't take advantage of the one advantage that so many have. And then, of course, you watch a match where a guy beats somebody really good. You watch a center beat somebody that's really good, and center gets his first serves in all the time. You say, oh, my God, he's got easy service games. I was watching a match today where they said, and it was Shelton playing again, and he was playing Tsitsipas. And Shelton had 37 serves or 35 serves in the first set or something like that, and he on first serves, and he won like 31 of the points, and he was serving and volleying. So I don't understand what Jim Courier is talking about. Again, this generation makes me insane because they say things that just make me insane. The second thing, I'm reading on my Facebook page, totally mind my business, and for some reason, I keep getting all these stories about LeBron, Kobe, and Michael Jordan, which I don't even ask. And last night's story was from basketball something. I don't remember where it was from. It's not even worthy saying. The guy said LeBron's 4 championships were harder than Michael Jordan's 6. And he used that, and the reason why is that his first championship was against the league MVP, Kevin Durant, and that the up-and-comer James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Then he said LeBron's second championship was against Dallas, and Dirk was great, and Jason Kidd's a Hall of Famer. Then he said the third title against the Spurs, well, it was against Tim Duncan and a dynasty. And then the fourth one was against Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. And I'm like, so? So I wrote him back. So, Michael's championships. First one against the Lakers. He said the Lakers were old. Then he said the Blazers were old. And he put the picture of Drexler and Magic on as his example as being old. Then he put Gary Payton as new. Like this was news to Gary Payton. He didn't really know what he was doing. And then he put Malone and Stockton as old. And I'm like, first of all, idiot, Malone was the MVP. Barkley, when they played Phoenix, he didn't put Barkley and Phoenix on the thing, by the way, which I didn't see. Barkley was the MVP. So Jordan went up against 2 league MVPs in the years that he won the championship. In fact, I think when Malone, I don't know if he went back-to-back, but I know Malone definitely won one of the MVPs, and that was what made Michael mad because he was like, Karl Malone's the MVP? I'm going to show you who the MVP was. Barkley was the MVP in 93. Charles had a great season. But Michael wanted to show Charles and his Phoenix Suns that he was the MVP. Then he says old. Well, let's see. The Spurs. Well, the Spurs were kind of old. They weren't very old, but they were aging. And they had just beat the Heat previously. So I don't understand why. Actually, he didn't even have Dallas. He had the Warriors, and he put Warriors Dynasty as one of them. That's what he had. And I believe his record against the Warriors in those finals was, what, 1-3? My point was, everything that he was saying made no sense because Michael was doing the same thing. Michael beat 2 MVPs to get his finals. The year Gary Payton's team made it to the finals, Gary Payton was the defensive player of the year. Michael beat him. The Lakers at that time, yeah, they had just been to the finals, what, 3 years in a row? So what's wrong with that? And then comparing it, saying the Jazz were old. The Jazz dethroned Houston, who was the 2-time defending champs. So what does it say about Houston? Houston was the 2-time defending champs that the Jazz the Jazz dethroned. Excuse me. So explain that to me. How what LeBron did was better, was more difficult than what Michael did. Michael had one other scorer, unless you want to count Tony Kukoc and say 2 scorers. LeBron had who? Wade, Bosh, Ray Allen, Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame. Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis won the Miami series, not LeBron. So explain that to me. And I wrote that to him. I said, you're fact straight. There's nothing you can compare LeBron and Michael to. And I wish everyone would just stop doing it. Not because it's different eras either. Because we all universally, everyone says, every single person says, if Michael played today, he would average at least 45 points a game. They don't play no defense. And there's no disputing that. And I'm tired of saying it. I'm tired of saying the other thing too. Everything you can say about LeBron is great. But here's one thing you can't say about LeBron. LeBron never won Defensive Player of the Year and a scoring title in the same year. Michael did. LeBron never won defensive all-first team defensive team and won the scoring title in a year. Michael did it. Michael's the only one to do it. In fact, Michael did it not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times. So let's stop that comparison. Completely stop that comparison. And move on. Move on to a much more difficult comparison between Brady and Montana. Because in that comparison, that's worthy of a discussion. Because you give one guy credit because his team won 7 Super Bowls, but he lost 3. As opposed to a guy who never lost a Super Bowl and clearly was the reason why they won. I'll do that debate before the season's over. Don't you worry, folks. But that really irked me last night, listening to Jim Courier say that, and then this guy. I mean, every day I get something about somebody's comparing themselves to Michael on something. And it's like, get a new topic. Get a new hobby. Blog. Do something. But leave the Michael LeBron thing to the adults and people who actually saw them